Here's all the advice ever about how to start breastfeeding and how to keep breastfeeding as your life falls around you in tatters. Here's absolutely no advice on how to stop. Don't worry, they won't still be doing it when they're 5 years old. We don't think. Oh. Whoa! Right, big chat today. Welcome back, everyone. If you're new here, today's going to be a bit unhinged. 5 years ago, 10 years ago, I never could have imagined sitting down making a video like this because I never thought I'd breastfeed for so long. But look, here we are, 4 entire years into breastfeeding 2 children back to back. I breastfed my son for 21 months and I am still breastfeeding my daughter 2 years on. I finally started the weaning process and I'm feeling everything. I'm feeling griefy. What do I feel? I feel really proud, but I feel really lost and scared. These last feeds, this might actually be it for this chapter of my life because I don't know if I'm going to have any more babies biologically. And yeah, I might never do this again. And I keep waiting for the relief feeling to hit because I'm giving myself this permission to wean. Because I mostly feel ready, but like it's not hitting. And I keep reminding myself, like, look, you'll have your body back. I keep thinking about just being able to go off for a few hours without having that mum guilt that I'm not there to provide what my daughter needs, like in moments when she needs comfort. And that's the feeling that's kind of drenching me is guilt. The feeling that I'm possibly cutting her off before she's fully ready. Because if I've learned anything about long-term breastfeeding, it's that it is not about milk. It is not about calories. It is not about the fact that, yes, she eats all the snacks and she eats meals and she'll take a bottle of whole cow milk. You know, she doesn't need the milk from my boobs. It is her ultimate comfort. It is the way we have bonded since she was born. Like, she's never taken a soother. Don't know if you call it a dummy, a pacifier, whatever, but I am that for her. And if you've not gone through breastfeeding, and even if you don't have a child, like, you'll know if a child has a lovey, like a toy that they're addicted to and they always have it and it's their comfort and they can't sleep without it, or if they have a soother and it's like such a nightmare if the thing goes missing or if it gets lost, and you wouldn't just like yank that away from a child and be like, oh, just get on with it, just deal with it. It's a big deal to cut a child off from their source of comfort, and it makes me worry about it affecting our relationship because it's different from weaning a baby. If you wean a baby 2 weeks into breastfeeding, that baby still is going to have other sources of comfort, and they're not on the cusp of like their long-term memories yet and stuff, whereas like a 2-year-old, and then if we keep on going, you know, until she's 3, because I don't know if this is going to work. I'm trying to do it gently, but like it's really difficult. This has been a huge part of her day since she was born. I'm just getting my phone. I saw a stat on Instagram about how many hours you spend breastfeeding. It is basically more than a full-time job. Ooh, it wasn't this one, but this is juicy. Someone just told me she had spent roughly 4,866 hours of her life breastfeeding, and that breast milk is only free if we think of women's time, bodies and care work as worthless. Yep, this is what I was looking for. Breastfeeding for 1 year is 1,800 hours. A full-time job with 3 weeks holiday is 1,960 hours. Where this tug of war is for me is I'm trying to think of it from my own perspective, of course. Like, it's been all-consuming. It has been a huge part of my identity. It has been a years-long ADHD hyper-focused subject for me, just learning about the incredible benefits of breast milk, and it's like a living thing. It's magical. It is insane. It is medicine. It is constantly adapting to the baby's needs. It is wonderful. It is exhausting. But then I'm trying to think about it from my daughter's perspective, boob is like a core primary attachment figure for her. Like, I don't even know if she understands that she and me and boob are separate. She is so attached to it. And I just love her so much. And the way she looks at me when she's breastfeeding and how it solves almost everything. It's like my biggest parenting hack. She's tired, boob. She's upset because she fell, boob. She is scared, boob. She has a nightmare, boob. We're traveling and I want her to just relax, boob. We're in a new environment and she's, you know, overwhelmed, boob. It's just an amazing tool. I'm getting ahead of myself. In this video, I want to talk about all of it. The magic and exhaustion of it. The incredible science behind it. And the truth about weaning. I have successfully night weaned my daughter, but I've had to do it twice. And it's been a very different experience than weaning my son. I never had any expectations of breastfeeding first time around. I was like, yeah, I'll give that a try. I'd like to do that. And I shared a video 6 months into my breastfeeding journey, which I will link down below. But as it is for most mothers, it was really difficult at the start, and you're going through pain and realizing what cluster feeding is, and realizing that everything you understood about breastfeeding up until that point was nonsense. Like, I used to be just constantly wondering, like, is he getting enough? Like, why isn't he satisfied yet? He's just constantly on my boob. Not realizing that it's a supply and demand situation, and that, you know, if when I would give top-up feeds with pumped breast milk, that then my body was like, oh, we don't need to produce more. No amount of preparation can prepare you for cluster feeds. I had read, for example, if you give top-up feeds with formula, then your body won't be getting the signal to make more milk, and then that just kind of creates this. But like, no one told me that the same thing would happen with pumped milk. Pumping can throw off your supply in both directions. It can make you make way too much milk. It can mean your body doesn't know how much milk the baby needs. It's such a learning curve, and I had all sorts of problems on my first breastfeeding journey, mainly clogs, mainly struggling with when my son got older and was like super distracted. Like, you know, he had a great latch and all the rest, but he wanted to look around and feed at the same time, so he'd get really angry when the boob was in his face, but then he'd be like, I don't want to stare at your armpit, I want to look across the room, that's shiny and interesting. So then he'd want me to be like a cow hovering over him, and for a long time, multiple feeds a day, I had to hover over him like a cow. And it's just something else. Like, it's such a strange, bizarre journey. Anyway, weaning him was relatively easy because I was pregnant. So my supply was dipping, my milk was tasting a bit different, and he like adjusted to night weaning quite quickly, started sleeping through, and then he basically day weaned himself. And with night feeds, I like first stopped feeding him to sleep, and then I enabled him to adjust to that just by soothing him in other ways. He was obviously like upset. I was reading to him, shushing him, singing to him, rocking him, everything else, until he got used to it, and then just figured out how to like fall asleep by rolling around on the bed beside me. I'm a co-sleeper, by the way, as well. That's another thing they just don't teach you about, is that when you are breastfeeding, the milk making hormone prolactin is highest at night. So that's why babies feed during the night. They can cluster feed at like 2 in the morning, and it's important, it's good for them to do that. And when you're breastfeeding, you're more kind of attuned to your baby's wakings and vice versa. So like, you're in a lighter sleep, and yeah, they want to sleep right next to your boob, and transferring them away from your boob becomes really difficult. It's very different co-sleeping with a breastfed baby, and that's why as part of the Safe Sleep 7 it says that a baby should be breastfed to safely co-sleep. And yeah, breastfed babies, if they're co-sleeping, will tend to breastfeed a lot more because yeah, they're emptying more milk from the breast, therefore your body keeps making more milk. Our bodies don't just make a set amount of milk. It adjusts based on how much milk is removed. And yeah, they they just want to be on you so much, breastfeeding so much, latching so much. And yeah, like my son with the night weaning, I did the 2 stages. So I stopped feeding to sleep, and then a couple of weeks later, I just stopped giving him the boob every time he woke up. He didn't used to like sit up and ask for boob, but my go-to hack from the beginning with both my babies was like any stir at night, the tiniest stir, and I would take the boob and pop it in their face, and then they wouldn't fully wake. They would latch on and just fall straight back asleep. And obviously that meant that my sleep was still pretty disturbed, but definitely less disturbed than if I was having to get up, sterilize things, make bottles, all of that, like the cot in the different room. Like I hats off to any parents who deal with that, because I couldn't have. I don't know, I think I would have died. Because I already, like I did experience extreme sleep deprivation. A lot of that was kind of coming from discomfort in my position. Like I would be in a certain position in the bed so that baby can like be latched on feeding. I wouldn't be comfortable, so like they'd be asleep, but then trying to like unlatch them and roll away and get comfortable and actually fall back asleep, that was more so my issue when it came to like sleep deprivation. But you can't, unless you have a unicorn baby, you cannot escape being a zombie in the first, I want to say 18 months, 2 years of having a baby. I think it gets easier after 18 months. And anyone who says earlier than that, I'm just like, your baby's a unicorn. But the breastfeeding generally, it did get a lot easier in time with both. Breastfeeding a toddler, it does have its own challenges, but like they can just lift up your top and latch on themselves and take their milk and get on with the day. And it's so much more complicated when they're a baby and that's their only source of nutrition. So you're kind of constantly wondering because you can't see how much milk is coming out, and you're like, you just have to trust that, because babies are very effective at draining milk from the boob, so they're probably getting a lot more than you even realize. And that's why it feels like you're running a marathon in the background all the time. Like it uses so much energy. It uses hundreds of calories to make breast milk. And yeah, all of the different like positions and how uncomfortable you get. Like if there was no one around to put a pillow under my arm, I would just be like, oh my God. It's quite challenging at the start. It really is. One of the hardest skills I ever had to learn, and I feel like in both situations with my babies, they taught me how to breastfeed more so than me teaching them. Like it comes quite instinctually to most babies, how to latch and stuff. And obviously there can be issues with tongue ties, flat nipples, all that kind of thing in more rare circumstances, but generally, like they come out of the womb with the mouth open, and they know how to like take a big bunchier areola in their mouth and how to suckle. And getting your head around how often to be doing it, when at the start their tummy is the size of like a little pea and it's just colostrum coming out, and then your milk comes in a few days in and it's like, what? And yeah, every day is different with like how often they feed, the times they feed. But when they're older, I think for me more of the issues come in when it's other people making comments and judging and being like, why is that child not off the boob yet? They're going to be still on the boob when they go to college. All that shite that you get from other people who aren't used to seeing kids being fed, not babies, but kids. And with my daughter, we had a very, very, very challenging early days of breastfeeding. I still don't know why, but she just wanted and needed to be in a dark room lying down to breastfeed, and she just wouldn't latch if I didn't give her that scenario. And so I felt tormented and tortured. I found it so hard because babies, you know, they have the 4 nap a day cycle, then the 3 nap a day, the 2 nap a day, and I feel like until you're really down to 1 to 2 naps a day, you're so chained to your house in a circumstance like that with a baby that has very specific needs for, you know, a certain position or darkness. My son was much better at like sleeping in the buggy or in the car, and yeah, so every baby is so different and every breastfeeding journey is so different. And the weird thing is, I kind of hit a limit with my daughter with breastfeeding where she was about maybe 18 months and I was recovering from some health stuff, and I was like, right, I'm done, I need to be done. I'm sick of her waking me up during the night and latching on and this, that and the other. And yeah, I night weaned her and it went really well. I shared this post on Instagram for anyone who wants very like specifics on night weaning. I'll link that down in the description box. But that all went well, and then a few weeks later she starts getting molars. And as I said, boob solves everything. So teething, like better than any amount of Nurofen or Calpol, anything, like boob, they like, it just is so soothing and comforting to them. So I was like, I need sleep. So I ended up offering her boob during the night when she was teething, and then we went right back to breastfeeding all night, every night. And I'm talking, you know, she would latch many times a night. So yeah, I'd started the process, and that's when I started feeling really super guilty. I feel like I was spending my entire day just thinking about breastfeeding and reflecting on all the things that you forget, like how just hearing them cry can trigger a letdown, like hearing your baby cry can just make milk pour from your boobs. It is witchcraft. I'd be thinking about conversations I've had with people who weaned toddlers and then fell into like heavy depressions because of the sudden drop in oxytocin, and like, yeah, they just felt really off for weeks to months. And then that combined with the guilt, I just felt really frozen. You know, I've missed so many things, so many opportunities, so many things with friends because of my choice to breastfeed, and I do not want to be resentful to my kids or ever like hold it against them, because it's been my choice. And like, yes, it's me prioritizing them and putting their needs above my own needs, but it's like, when it's so difficult to decide where's the cutoff and how to weigh that. Like, this has been a big thing for me. So I've been speaking a lot to my therapist about it. I think this is a good place for me to introduce my video partner, which is BetterHelp, who I've worked with for a long time. Yeah, I've been a paying customer, and they have been a rock for me during my early years of parenting. All of us parents need people to talk to, and when I had my first child, like, I was the first of all of my friends to have a baby. It was during lockdowns, and this is when I was introduced to BetterHelp. This clip you're watching right now is an example of the current scenario that just keeps coming up in therapy, where my daughter just keeps asking for boob in situations where I have other things to do. I just don't want to, I'm exhausted, I'm being pulled in different directions because my older child wants my attention as well. I'm longing for the time when I can just like cuddle her to soothe her, which is what I can do with my son, and it is better. Like, as much as I miss breastfeeding my son, I do prefer being able to like look him in the eye and have a conversation with him and have a little cuddle. So I'm dying for that stage with her, but I'm also like trying not to wish this away, because I know I'm going to really miss it. I know ending breastfeeding is going to be really hard for my mind and my body. The emotional flip-flopping, and like, it's like whiplash. So I need to talk things out with someone, and my BetterHelp therapist is a mother herself. In the past, she has helped me to address grief for past versions of myself. She's helped me to handle different family dynamics, boundary setting. She's helped me to develop amazing relationship strategies within my marriage. She's helped me process a lot of the feelings I've had in motherhood, of like loneliness and just certain realizations you have when you become a parent, like, you know, other people don't care about your child like the way you do, and that's really, it's just a really strange one to get your head round. We're still basically at the beginning of a new year, and so this is all of our chance to start a new page, to write a new story. And I kind of want the rest of my year to be not another year breastfeeding. I don't want to make it to 5 years breastfeeding. So that's what I'm kind of trying to sort through at the moment with my therapist. But if you have any struggles that you're going through in life, and you could do with talking to a credentialed professional, like somebody outside of your current situation, you know, fresh eyes. You can start fresh in life and in this new relationship with a therapist with BetterHelp. I have a link in my description box and it gets you 10% off of your first month of therapy. Yeah, I know talking about this stuff helps and it's really important, and that's a big reason why I wanted to make this video. I think people just tend to not want to listen to mothers. Like, I don't know what it is. It's you first realize this when you have a baby and you're like, why is this so hard? Why did no one tell me when I was pregnant? Like, why was everyone like, oh, I'm so happy for you? And no one tells you what to really expect. But they do. Actually, they do. But when you're not a mother, you're not listening. Hang on a second. I'm reading an amazing book. This book, it is by Holly Bourne. It is so good. If you're an expecting mother or you have a baby, you will love this. It centers around 4 different friends. One is pregnant, one has a baby, one is trying and hasn't yet had any success. But I was literally just reading a bit about breastfeeding in this, and I cannot tell you how much I need to read stuff like this and to just hear people say stuff like this, because it just makes me feel less crazy and like less like I'm like a rare case or like just particularly bad at you know, this kind of stuff. But so this is about breastfeeding. Do you enjoy breastfeeding? Nikki asks me once I managed to get Woody back on again. You're still doing it at what, 9 months? That's amazing. I have to stay perfectly still, otherwise Woody will unlatch again. It's impossible to explain even to myself what my relationship with breastfeeding is like. For the first few months, it was probably the biggest contributor towards my full-on mental breakdown. It was painful. It was terrible. Woody was totally shit at it. I used to call him Mr. Craplatch. Oh, there you have it. Mr. Craplatch strikes again, I'd think. Absolutely furious at him, as it meant he never drank enough and therefore he'd be hungry again in 90 minutes time, meaning I get no decent sleep. Back then, I was still stupid enough to believe that decent sleep was a possibility, that it was just around the corner if only Woody would latch properly. If I'd told past me then that I still wasn't getting any sleep after 9 months, I think I would have thrown myself off a bridge. I was so close anyway that I actively avoided walking across Annie. Tristan begged me to stop. Please stop. I can feed him. We can try bottles. Why are you doing this to yourself? That look in his eye again. That this isn't who I married look. The my wife is malfunctioning look. The slight disgust. That this isn't who I married. He had a C-section, so he needs breast milk because he wasn't exposed to all the good bacteria in my vaginal canal. I kept repeating it, wondering why he didn't listen. Wouldn't believe me. Instead, he clenched his fists in frustration and didn't unfurl them for months. Lauren, we've gone through this. Those 2 things aren't related to breastfeeding. He attempted a smile. Plus, Woody was stuck in your vaginal canal for quite some time, if I remember. Plenty of time to lick some germs and have a good immune system. You think this is funny? It's not fucking funny. Plus, the midwives acted like bottles didn't exist. Keep going, they said. Try this rugby position, they said. No, not like that. You're doing it wrong. It's not supposed to hurt, but definitely keep doing it if it's agony. What's formula? There isn't any in the hospital, so if you don't get this right, your baby will starve. You can't go home until you've figured out the latch. Let me check it again. No, position is all wrong. Unlatch him. I know he's screaming, but unlatch him. Try again. No, wrong again. He can't breathe. He'll get wind. No wonder he's up all night with that latch. Does he have tongue tie? We don't bother checking for it, but he's likely got it. If you want to get it checked, you'll have to pay a private lactation consultant £280 to tell you he has it, and then another £280 to cut it. And oh, the NHS waiting list is 3 weeks long, and your baby will die before then. But don't you dare use formula. Nipple confusion. You need to establish your milk supply first. Your postnatal depression will get worse if you stop. Keep going. Keep going. Don't try using a bottle until it's way too late for the baby to accept the bottle. Oh dear, yes, now you can't leave your baby for more than 3 hours for about a year. Didn't anyone tell you that? Why didn't you introduce a bottle sooner? You're giving your child the best start in life though. Your entire life might have shrunk to a mile's radius from your front door, but at least the baby will never get sick. Apart from all the times they get sick, and they'll have a higher IQ, even though actually it appears that evidence is overstated. Here's all the advice ever about how to start breastfeeding and how to keep breastfeeding as your life falls around you in tatters. Here's absolutely no advice on how to stop. Don't worry, they won't still be doing it when they're 5 years old. We don't think. Oh, I love this book. It's so good. There's so much in this. But Just that section alone about breastfeeding, like, so if I lived in a tribe and there was no pressure to like wean, my daughter might breastfeed until she was 5, 6 or 7. Honestly, like, that is what's observed. And as liberal as I am and as pro breastfeeding as I am, I even struggle with the thoughts of that. Like, I look at my 4.5-year-old and I cannot imagine still breastfeeding them. Like, but yet if I was still doing it, I probably wouldn't think that way. Like, when I had a tiny baby, the thought of breastfeeding a 2-year-old was shocking to me, because I've never seen anyone doing it. Even now, I don't know anybody. I don't know anybody who's breastfeeding a 2-year-old. 1 or 2 people online who live a million miles away. But yeah, they really don't tell you how to stop. And, you know, I was desperately texting my group chat. I have a group chat of mum friends, just about like advice on like gentle weaning. And one of my friends sent a list of like these breastfeeding specialists I can call, because I'm going away later this month for 2 nights, and I had planned to be weaned by now, and it's not. Like, she's still breastfeeding during the day. She was just sick. So again, yes, children get sick. If they're breastfeeding, they still get viruses. Now, my daughter's never been in a doctor's. We once brought her to a hospital because she had like quite a bad fever, but they just were like, go home. She's got a fever. She just has to wait it out. We've been very lucky with them in the sense that, yeah, my daughter's never needed an antibiotic. She's had great digestion. My son's health has been brilliant as well, but they still get colds, you know, they still catch what's going. It is not a cure-all. When they talk about the benefits of breastfeeding, yes, they are there. They are established. Lower risk for cardiovascular disease in adulthood, lower risk of obesity, lower risk of vomiting and diarrhea, less hospital visits, lower risk of SIDS, which was a big one for me because I was terrified of SIDS, which is sudden infant death syndrome. And then, yeah, there's benefits for us as the breastfeeding mothers as well, in terms of breast cancer, ovarian cancer, osteoporosis and cardiovascular disease. There's benefits, but, you know, I can't help but constantly go back to the fact that I was formula fed, and though formula does seem like a big faff in terms of like the preparation and then the money involved, as a formula feeding mother, you can have your own life, or a bit of it, a taste of it. You can give baby to another responsible adult in their life, and they can form that bond with other adults, like with their dad and grandparents and stuff. Like, selfishly, I do love being the only one who has that with her, like the breastfeeding and the comforting, and it's a very specific relationship. And selfishly, like, I have enjoyed having that with her. It's been so special. It's been like the most special experience I've ever had in my life. But then there's other times when I've wanted to scream at my children. When I have screamed, I have gone into a different room and screamed because they just keep wanting to latch when I'm like exhausted, I'm dehydrated, I'm touched out, I don't want anyone touching me. And like, there's so much about it that, yeah, you're not prepared for, you don't get prepared for. And I mentioned on Instagram how I thought we should be taught about this in like secondary school. You know, when we're teenagers, we should learn more about this kind of a thing. And the feedback, the pushback I got, people were like, oh yeah, of course you want people to teach about breastfeeding. And the responses were very weird and interesting, but overall people did not seem to support that. And I can't get my brain around that. Some of the stuff we learn in secondary school, and yet these massive life skills that are like so impactful for our health, for the health of a child, for our mental health, they can impact our ability to earn an income. Like, of course I have worked less. I have not been able to write another, like, reading this is desperately making me want to start writing my 3rd novel. I have not written, like, she wrote this with a baby. I wrote my last novel, Glass Houses, with a baby, and it near killed me. It near killed me, and I was only able to do that because at the time we were during lockdowns and my husband couldn't work much. He's a pilot, so yeah. Why is there a siren? My writing career, I've had to like put on the long finger, and there's many things that I've felt, like many areas of my life where I've felt very limited. And there's been times where my husband and I were looking through different childminders, you know, considering that my son is in preschool, I was like, maybe we could get a childminder for the hours during the week where my son is in preschool, so that the two of them would be being looked after. So he'd be in preschool, my daughter would be with a childminder, and then I'd be able to write, which is a part of my career that I've dreamed about my whole life. And it was building momentum. Like my first novel was in the Irish charts, and it got picked up for like the Diet Coke book club, and it reached all these American readers. And then my second novel got amazing quotes by authors that I really admire, like Sophie White and Louise O'Neill, and that was in the charts. And then, like, had my second baby, I put myself under intense pressure to be this perfect mother who just does everything perfectly. And I know breastfeeding is an amazing thing, and it is, and I would encourage anyone considering it to do it in informed about the fact that it's not just a case of like, oh, I'll stop when I want to stop. It's so difficult. There's a lot of emotions, and we tend as a society to repress emotions that we perceive as negative, like guilt, like shame, sadness, grief, anger, all these things. And I'm trying really hard at this stage of my life to feel my feelings and process them and just let them sit in my body and sit with them and accept them. But I have been doing that, and like this guilt isn't going anywhere. And I don't know, is that probably is just inbuilt, because as a species, like, our survival was based upon our mother's ability to breastfeed us in a world where all the modern luxuries and inventions didn't exist. And so that grief is probably quite primal. But Jesus, I just want to be able to go off to a dance class and not be worrying about whether or not I'm emotionally damaging my daughter. Like, she is everything. She is the most, she is, I just want to pause time. That is how adorable she is. She is the most perfect little girl. My daughter is a really gentle little soul. She's sensitive. She's very easily comforted and soothed by me. And so I've had no real issues with her, other than the fact that she's like stuck to me like a leech. Like, she would happily be on me or beside me all day, every day. She would probably happily breastfeed for years. And so while I say I'm weaning, like, I'm trying, but if she doesn't go with it and she fights against it, which she seems to be, like, anytime I have a day, like, I went out the other day for a little me date, and I was gone from 8:30 in the morning until 5:30 in the evening. It'll be in my February monthly vlog. But that day, I got back and I breastfed her, and she was in great form. My husband said she didn't once ask for me. She wasn't like, where's mommy, where's Booby? She was fine. But as soon as I came in, she expected Boob the second I got in the door. And so that day she had only 2 breastfeeds and then nothing at night. But then the next day, every half an hour, I'm not joking, this is a 2-year-old, every half an hour all day, she was on my lap, pulling at my top, asking for boobies. And so, like, you know, maybe trying to boost my supply back up. I don't know. As I said, it's like a supply and demand system. But yeah, if I can't do this gently, and if she doesn't take to it, I don't know what I'm going to do. Because, like, I wouldn't be able to do, for example, with, like, if you think about sleep training, I haven't sleep trained either of my kids, but you know the way there's like gentle sleep training techniques where it's like a no cry sleep training, and it's very intensive for the parents and it can be stretched out over weeks. And I don't have the dedication to do something like that, so I've just not gone near sleep training because I wouldn't be able to do the alternative, which is like, you know, the Ferber method or like, you know, proper cry it out kind of thing. I just couldn't, I wouldn't be able to do it. I can imagine the adrenaline and the cortisol pumping through my body already. Like when I get those overwhelming feelings, I don't know if it's in me from childhood to like have this perfectionism or what it is, but I feel like a wild animal in a cage, like throwing myself at a cage. Like I really don't like that feeling. So I just don't know what to do. And yeah, I'm making this just to open up the conversation, just to talk about it, just to share my big mishmash of feelings. Because I do have the most beautiful moments and memories like of breastfeeding, and you know, when they're putting their hand in your mouth and like playing with you and laughing while the boob's in their mouth and stuff like that. And I love how helpful it is in parenting in general. But there's been so many negatives. It's aged me, not just through lack of sleep, but like literally. Like it's everything that is in the milk. It's not just like when you're eating. It's not like, you know, you could be eating McDonald's every day and your milk would still be perfect for your baby because your body stores up stuff from everything you eat from like when you're a little baby. Like there's stores in your body. But like I've just felt like it's been leaching from everything. Like you hear a lot of women get teeth problems from breastfeeding, and there's all sorts of different jokes around it. Like all their bum goes and like it just sucks from everywhere, and you feel like a shriveled up raisin, you know. And getting my period back a couple of months back, I just realized like I felt so much more myself, so much more sane just from that hormonal shift. So I just wonder what awaits for me at the end of the rainbow, like on the other end when I'm not breastfeeding anymore. Saggy boobs for sure. They're already saggy as hell. I gained a lot of weight when I was 19 and my boobs were enormous, and then I lost a lot of weight and they were like already a bit saggy when I was like 20 or 21. When I first lost a lot of weight, I lost 4 stone, which is 60 pounds or something. And so like I'm used to saggy boobs. I've basically always had slightly saggy boobs, but like this is like saggy, like they are. And yes, even though there's still milk coming out of them, they're not like super full anymore. So yeah, they've like the tissues aren't like super. My daughter doesn't need as much milk. It's more so for the soother aspect. That's mainly why she nurses, is like comfort nursing, and there's nothing wrong with that. I just wish that it was more predictable, I suppose. I wish it was like, you know, oh, she does this once in the morning and once in the evening. And so then I kind of know, oh, I have the whole day free to like not feel tethered to where she is. But right now I still do. And so for over 5 years now, I've been either pregnant, I've had a newborn, I've been breastfeeding, and I need some space from these kids. I hope you've enjoyed this chat and got something from it, but please let me know where you're at with feeding in the comments. If you have a baby, how would you like to feed when you have a baby? What are your concerns? What are some challenges you've experienced or witnessed in your friend groups? It's happening all around us all the time, and we're all just not talking about it because boobs are naughty. Ooh. We have sexualized boobs when they are the most functional thing probably on our entire body. Like my boobs to me are like just hands or feet. Like I do something with them. They're not, which is sad. I used to love boobs in that way, not just my own, but the boobs of others. I don't know if that feeling will ever come back, like those thoughts, but I'm sure there's something in there about, you know, the fact that boobs are related to babies, and so much about sex is about reproducing. And I don't know, there's some connection in there, but It has temporarily just it's gone. No, boobs are not sexy. Boobs are like elbows. I'm going to go and breastfeed again because I have no life. I'm lying. I do. Life gets easier as they get older to live. I'm not constantly breastfeeding, but it's been 2 hours. My boobs feel full, and if I don't empty them, I'll get a clog. Bye.